Listening section, select missing word, guided practice. Question number 1. In select missing word, you will hear an audio. The last word or last few words of that audio have been beeped out. Means you'll not hear the words, you'll just hear a beep in place of those words. And you'll see on the screen few options. You have to pick the option which completes that audio. So it's simple as long as you can guess, understand the overall meaning of the audio, and then based upon that, based upon the context, you can select the option that will fit into it. So let's start with the first question. As you can see at the top are the instructions, then on your screen are the options out of which you have to pick one, and soon the audio will start.
Well, companies need to realize that by prioritizing privacy and security, they can build trust and loyalty to their users. Governments must create a safer internet by ensuring enforcement and up-to-date rules. And us, the citizens, we can use our voice to remind the world that technology can only truly benefit society if it respects basic.
So as you noticed, you couldn't hear the last few words. They have been beeped out. You just heard a beep. How do you go about answering this question? So you be alert and be ready to listen. And then read the question. In all other question types, the instructions at the top are standard. But in this, the first sentence varies for each question. The first sentence here tells you that the recording is about consumer matters. So that gives you an idea what you're going to hear about. So you'll hear something, some discussion, some lecture related to consumer matters. And then quickly in the few seconds that you have, just look at the options: demands, rights, features, profiles. Already when I looked at the option, the ones which seem suitable and seem related to consumers and the consumer matters, demands and rights, because I often hear, and I'm sure you have also heard, things that consumers demand, the products that they demand, or we also hear about consumer rights. So when you buy something, you have some rights, some expectations from the product. So when you quickly skim at the options, sometimes, or maybe most of the times, you'll be able to shortlist, let's say, a few options that probably my answer is going to be one of these two options. Of course, don't hurry, you still have to listen. And then when the audio starts playing, you start listening and try to understand. And as soon as the audio starts reaching towards the end, you know that it will end soon, then try to capture the last few words. Because once you know the last few words, then you can combine them with each of these options. And it will become so much easier to figure out which is the right option then. And once you figured out which of these options they go with the last few words of the recording, then what you do because it's possible that maybe 2 of these 4 options you can add at the end, and they might make correct grammatical sense, that is the right grammatical structure. When you add, for example, if there are 2 nouns, then in the end you are adding a noun. So either of those is correct grammatically. But how will you decide? You decide based upon the context. So that it has to be related to the topic, that is consumer matters in this case, and overall what you have heard and understood in the audio. So both things are important. Getting an overall idea of what the topic is about, what recording is about, and then just before the beep, capturing the 2 or 3 words that are there so that you can then combine them with the options and figure out the right option. Now in this case, the last couple of words before the beep were respects basic dash. So now combine them: respect basic demands, respect basic rights, respect basic features, respect basic profiles. So the last 2 don't really make any sense. And respect, when you respect somebody's rights. So respect basic rights, and especially in the context of consumer matters, that seems to be the most logical. Therefore, the correct option is right. Okay. So follow all the steps one by one, and you can easily figure out which is the correct option. So let's go to question number 2 now. The few seconds that you have in that, read the first sentence of the instructions, get ready to listen, and skim, quickly cast your eye over the options.
Now you have the power to walk through an evidence-based memory interview. Now, this is called a cognitive interview. This is the same technique that police use when they're doing their job properly. So best case scenarios, people who are being asked about important emotional events are being asked in line with the cognitive interview. Now, this walks you through all the relevant information so that at the end, after you've talked to the bot, which is an automatic messaging system, after you've talked to the bot, it generates a PDF record that's timestamped and securely signed that you can keep for yourself as evidence in case you want to share it later, or you can submit it to your employer right away. And in line with recommendations, you can submit it to your employer anonymously. But a reporting tool is only as useful as the audience that's listening. So if your employer is truly committed to change, we've decided to also offer them the tool to respond. So if organizations work with us and are truly committed to doing something about workplace harassment and discrimination, they're also able to respond to you even if you've chosen to stay.
All right. So this recording is about issue reporting. Means somebody is reporting an issue, sharing some information. And yeah, when we were listening to the audio, that's the kind of things it was. That there's an interview, you're recording a statement, you're reporting it, you're sharing it. And the last few words before the beep, they were respond to you even if you have chosen to stay. So chosen to stay what? Hopeful, chosen to stay anomaly, chosen to stay mysterious, or chosen to stay anonymous. In this case, chosen to stay anonymous, mysterious, or hopeful, all three are correct from a grammatical point of view, but only chosen to stay anonymous makes sense here. Because anonymous means you don't want to reveal your identity when you are reporting an issue. There's no logic behind chosen to stay or choosing to stay hopeful. So there's nothing about being hopeful here. But yeah, anonymous, that's the correct option. Let's go to the next question now.
While these concerns sound legitimate, I realized that not including children in city planning was a bigger design problem. After all, shouldn't we include end users in the design process? If we're building a park to be largely used by kids, then kids should have a say in the park's design. So with all of this in mind, we formed a program called Growing Up Boulder, and my job is to work with children ages 0 through 18 to come up with innovative city design.
The last few words were innovative city design. And you already read before the audio began that the recording was about city design. Now, innovative city design solutions, innovative city design problems, innovative city design suggestions, innovative city design programs. And talk is about engaging people to come up with. So what do you do? Come up with innovative city design solutions. From a logical point of view, that makes sense, though grammatically all four of these are correct. But if you try to understand, you'll know that they're trying to solve something, they're trying to create something. And from that perspective, innovative city design solutions, that's the correct option. Now, the last question in this practice session.
Now, let me also emphasize that this world forecast, which is based on data from 180 countries, is population weighted. So China has more weighting than Comoros, India has more weighting than Iceland. But we can unpack this and look at see how the countries are doing. And the country today that is closest to achieving the SDGs is Denmark. And the country with the furthest to go is Central African Republic. And everyone else is somewhere in between. So the challenge for the SDGs is to try and sweep all these dots across to the right to 100 by 2030. Can we get there? Well, with the Social Progress Index, we've got some time series data. So we have some idea of the trend that the countries are on which we can build some.
The last few words were, we can build some. So we can build some promises, we can build some projections, we can build some transactions, we can build some traction. Now, we can build some transactions or we can build some traction doesn't make any sense. We can build some promises also doesn't make any sense. So the correct, logically, we can build some projections, especially since you know that the recording is about goal, progress, and trends. So when you're talking about trends and monitoring progress, then projections fit in nicely. You are trying to forecast what's going to happen. So we can build some projections to show what's going to happen based upon the trends and the progress so far. So that is your correct option. That's why it is important that you understand the overall context of the recording. The first sentence that helps you narrow down what you're going to listen, and matching with the last few words with the options, it just avoids any confusion. So if someone has understood the context, they might even be able to pick one of these options without remembering the words before the beep and without going through the matching exercise. But just remembering those few words, it gives you an extra confidence. So some of us, we might not be able to remember or understand fully, but catching those last few words, it's like a trick. It helps us narrow down our choice. So if you're confident, it just gives us extra confidence. Otherwise, it helps us to make the best possible guess.